Aloha mai kako, you are watching Hawaii Political Reporter.
Recent reports published by WikiLeaks have revealed that the U.S. government is using highly advanced spyware to watch its own citizens. The system called Trapwire allegedly accesses surveillance.
But a hero to many. Army Private Bradley Manning is allegedly responsible for the largest government leak in U.S. history. After being held without charges for over 2 years, Manning's pretrial hearings finally started today. He's charged with 22. Starting off this hour, CIA Director David Petraeus is urging the White House to expand the agency's drone fleet. Petraeus said that the expansion will allow the CIA to carry on with its mission in Pakistan, Yemen, and possibly in North Africa.
They're talking about inserting the Army into domestic law enforcement. Senator Lindsey Graham, who supports this bill, says, quote, "The homeland is part of the battlefield, and people can be held without trial, whether an American citizen or not."
I, Barack Hussein Obama, do solemnly swear to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
The original Constitution, I think it is an imperfect document, and I think it is a document that reflects some deep flaws.
The greatest fear that I have regarding the outcome for America of these disclosures is that nothing will change. People will see in the media all of these disclosures. They'll know the lengths that the government is going to grant themselves powers unilaterally to create greater control over American society and global society. But they won't be willing to take the risks necessarily to stand up and fight to change things, to force their representatives to actually take a stand in their interests. And the months ahead, the years ahead, it's only going to get worse.
Greetings, citizens of the world. We are anonymous. It has now been 1 year since Edward Snowden's revelations have illustrated to everyone the National Security Agency's true agenda by removing their shroud of secrecy. For our very basic human right of privacy to be taken from us is a dystopian future that we are looking toward if we do not act now. Throughout this time, nothing of any true consequence has come of his leaks, and the NSA is still just as powerful and exempt from repercussion as ever. While corrupt politicians have lined their own pockets by taking hundreds of thousands of dollars in bribes to fulfill their financiers' wishes in securing profits for their militaristic surveillance tools, the rest of us are suffocating from these enormously wasteful expenditures and forced to work our lives away in this post-recession world, barely able to feed ourselves and our families, while the NSA's League of Profiteers reap millions. For humanity to see its future, it must destroy what holds it back, and abolishing the NSA is a crucial step forward to regain our freedoms. The ability to punish any dissenting voice as acts of terror, as leaks have revealed, are a testament to the true nature of this and to demonstrate to the rest of the world what happens when its legitimacy is questioned or challenged. Surveillance of the masses only serves to protect the privileged from the poor, but their anti-terrorism facade has been exposed, and we have before us a better opportunity than ever to capitalize upon this growing discontent among those aware of the repercussions of limitless data retention. November elections are but a few months away, and the time has come to take our government away from the agendas of the corporations that control it. This can only be done by you, as a citizen of your country, by being informed of who represents your true interests. It is up to you to research your candidates and make every vote count. Stand behind the candidates who have no financial ties to NSA affiliates, as they would most likely legislate against them. If we can assemble an anti-surveillance partnership of legislators, we can deconstruct the NSA and put its budget to better use. Use OpenSecrets.org to get a profile of candidates on the ballot for November's election and protest the ones refusing to defund the National Security Agency. Print our flyers and spread them around in your areas so that others will become aware of who has embedded themselves in their political future. Support the campaigns of candidates who would legislate against the NSA and protest against the ones who have accepted campaign donations from NSA affiliates at the voting locations. We are anonymous. We are legion. We do not forgive. We do not forget. Expect us.
I am Kerri Marks. I am a 14-year resident here on the Hawaii Island. I live here with my husband and 3 children. Our oldest daughter graduated from Hilo High in 2005 and lives on the mainland now. And now we have our daughter Denver, who's 13, and our twin boys JJ and PJ, who were born here on this island. I was drawn to this island for certain, and specifically the Hilo side of this island. I feel a very strong connection to the community and the Aina, and have devoted my life for the last couple of years to trying to make change, social change and political change and all kinds of changes. And we've had some successes, and so I see the county council as the next step in my journey of change. That this is where the rubber hits the road, and that we can actually make changes that affect people's lives positively. So that's why I'm running. I am a strong proponent of open government. My campaign slogan is accountability, transparency, and action. And that is pretty much what you can expect from me. So please remember to vote on August 9th. It's very important to the 3 of us sitting here that you all go make a choice between at least one of us on August 9th. And mahalo Sierra Club and Recycle Hawaii and you folks for coming to ask us questions, and I look forward to it. Mahalo.
How do you plan to protect our watersheds for our grandchildren and their grandchildren to come?
Water is life. You are correct. And so I have been working with and involved with a lot of different conservancy groups and the hunters and all kinds of people that are concerned about the watersheds. And it's pretty well known that the water follows the forest. And so we need to maintain and preserve and support our watersheds to make sure that they're available for our future generations. I would definitely get with the Game Management Advisory Commission and the folks that know more about what's going on up on the mountain and ask their advice on how to proceed from this point.
The county council basically has a minimal amount of reach in terms of the watershed protection. Most of that is covered by state law. But one of the things that the county council is currently being asked to do is to pass a resolution supporting a management area for that Kona area that was just mentioned. As council people, would you support that resolution?
Yes, I would.
So the concept of Aloha Aina is a very important, significant, and historic one for Hawaiian subjects, Kanaka Maoli. What's your understanding of Aloha Aina?
Aloha Aina to me also means love of the land and respect of the land. And in addition to it being where our food comes from and us essentially, we also need to take care in our planning, and we have not done that on Hawaii Island very well for the last ever. So it's time to restore some balance and show some respect for the Aina and not bomb Pohakuloa and not desecrate a sacred summit with more technology that may or may not be useful by the time it's built, let alone ever. And unfortunately, remediation, soil remediation is a new word for me that I just learned in the last year or two. I'd never heard that before. I'm from Nebraska, so we know quite a bit about farming in Nebraska too. And there was never any remediation. That wasn't part of the plan. So apparently that's something we need to spend some effort and some time on now too, and make sure that we're not damaging it any further than we already have, and put some balance back and make it right.
The county does not have particularly a great amount of reach. What reach it does have is in its grubbing and grading permitting practices and its tax incentive for those people who put their land into preservation. The first question that I would have to you is on the grubbing and grading issue. While the law is on the books, there is no particular mechanism for the county other than people reporting it, making a guess as to whether what's being done is legal. The county does not act upon its own. Recently we found out that the county is acting using satellite technology to determine whether or not the people who are getting an agricultural exemption, would you support the use of that technology to report, to discover illegal grubbing and grading?
Yes, we're already doing that. If you go to a planning commission meeting, almost all of their site plans and information that they give the public and the commission about the site is from Google Earth. That's how they do it. There was a couple weeks ago, maybe a month ago, there was a bill that came through the council asking the planning department to actually do site visits when they approve subdivision permits and that kind of thing instead of the Google Earth technology. And they voted that down 2-7, I believe. They didn't think site visits were important. I testified that I think site visits are important because not only can you see what's going on there, you can hear things, you can smell things, you can, actually connect with the land and what's going on there. You also have to drive through traffic to get there, and so all of these things are a factor that they didn't see fit to take into account. I think that we should put that kind of stuff in before you can even get your grubbing and grading permit. But your question is basically after the fact, once we've already known that there's illegal grubbing and grading going on, what do we do about it? We need to raise the fines substantially. There is, as Mr. Gali pointed out, quite a bit of development plan for our neighborhood of Kaumana, and they have already blown way past their permits. They were not to erect anything in the air until they fixed some problems with the street and the realignment, and they didn't. I'm pretty sure it was a $500 fine. So they just went ahead because we're talking about a multi-million-dollar nursing home going up here, which I am all for, and I think most of the neighborhood is for. I mean, we want services like that, but we need to make our laws with teeth so that people actually respect them. We do live in a complaint-driven society.
Law defines a culture. To justify that in the Hawaiian culture, for instance, the kapu system and other laws that was laid out, it helped us perpetuate and maintain our resources properly. Those laws were the hard-stricken laws, laws with teeth on it, that allowed these things to be taken care of. it's quick to say that we find other alternatives than basic education where culturally everybody got that education. Everybody knew that. Everybody took upon that kuleana within themselves. My question to you is, because law defined our culture and it was so important, and with this new education of the laws and a history, what is your level of education of the Hawaiian culture and its values? Because you're representing this place that we all call home. And without defining and understanding those proper laws, which defines these cultures that we all take upon and we all have grown to love, it does take education to maintain those things, not money, not the export of things, right? Because this kind of leads into, I'll say kind of within the two questions, because our import is so high, we're also bringing high invasive species into our place. So if we stop the ships and we stop those imports to take care of our place, are we able to do that? Right? Do we have the proper laws set up for that? Or do we again just go back and say, oh, let's go back and see what has done before? But we've always been doing that. We've always been searching. The information is all there. So my question really pretty much comes down to your education level, and if you're willing or wanting to learn more on that, because again, law defines our culture and we do feel it important.
Mahalo for your question. My education level on the Hawaiian culture is growing. I've been here for 14 years, so I'm just scratching the surface, but I have tried to surround myself with people that I know and trust that can help teach me those things. I have spent quite a bit of time over the last couple of years with Pele practitioners, and I've learned about their cultural, I'm sorry, that was super distracting, with the Pele practitioners and people that were opposed to geothermal development, for example, and the reasons for that, and people that are opposed to development. I'm playing Tetris with myself or something. So anyway, I go to a lot of meetings, and I've been to a lot of cultural events and that kind of thing. But I would say that my first truly cultural experience that really hit me was a year and a half or 2 years ago when we were at the county building for the final hearing of the Board of Land and Natural Resources meeting for the 30-meter telescope. And there was a ceremony outside before the hearing that moved me to tears. It was really, really powerful. And since then, I've really opened up my eyes and my heart to a lot of different perspectives. It's a constant challenge for me to keep learning and to keep surrounding myself with good people. As to your question, if the imports stop tomorrow, do we have the laws in place to sustain ourselves? No, we don't. No, we don't. And we are on a very slippery slope right now. It's one of the reasons also that I have spent so much time with the hunters, because their game animals are being eradicated. And if it gets to the point where there are no animals, that's a meat source. And especially in a crisis, in an emergency situation, those are the people that I would go to for help. So, Father's hovering.
As I mentioned earlier, the county gives a tax exemption to landowners who put their land in preservation, meaning that they have at least 3/4 endemic vegetation on the property. And they reduce the taxes for whatever it is to a $100 a year minimum. Would you continue to support that?
$100, well, conservation land is good, and we all want to conserve things, but we also have to make sure that we are not just giving gentlemen estates a tax break. And so it has to be monitored, probably at a better level than we've been doing. because that's what can happen, is that rich landowners will come in and buy something up, have it declared a conservation area, and then they're tax-free as long as they own the land. They own the land. And then when they can still sell the land. It's not preserved in perpetuity. It's just a tax break. So that would be the distinction I would make, and make darn sure that it's actually conservation land and not a proposed subdivision.
I do a lot of zero waste events, and I've gotten to know styrofoam rather well from doing those events. And it's most often used at an individual level as a food service item, so like disposable dinnerware. And I can tell you that styrofoam, it causes a lot of problems when you're trying to separate and to recycle, especially when you're trying to capture food contaminated items and compost. So I wonder if you folks would be willing to support a ban on the use of styrofoam for food service purposes. And that means that we would no longer allow people to send out takeout containers from the restaurants with styrofoam, or to use styrofoam to serve food.
Yes, that was my idea. I would support a styrofoam ban. Like I said, I've lived here 14 years, and until I had moved here 14 years ago, I hadn't seen styrofoam in years. Most of the mainland has banned that stuff a long, long time ago. We all know it's bad. It doesn't go anywhere. We should get rid of it. They do make other takeout containers. I love takeout. I don't want everybody to stop buying takeout, but you can get it made from soy products and potato products, and there's all kinds of starches you can make containers out of, so let's start doing that.
This is from Edwin, and it's a two-part question. What is your definition of conservation and preservation? And the second part is, what resolution would you bring forth to the council to protect Hawaiian rights to hunt?
Okay, then my definition of conservation and preservation is to restore. It has to have restoration and management involved. You cannot just fence off 10,000 acres and call it good, and not let people in there anymore and call it good. Because what's happening is that our hunters, there are a lot of sheep and game up on the mountain still, but they are being eradicated, and the areas that the hunters are allowed to go and hunt and the times that they're allowed to go and hunt are becoming less and less. So Malka-Makai access is a big issue. And from what I know, which is very little on Hawaiian culture, they don't really stick to a time clock. So this whole 10 a.m. gate opening, closing thing is not working for anybody. So what reso would I put forth? We've put forth a couple already. We've already had a resolution to ban the aerial hunting that's going on this island, and that's now gone to court. So that failed. Sort of. We had the will of the people behind us, but not the will of the court so far. So it's a tricky wicket, and there has to be better balance between conservation and preservation, and people being able to live their lives as they have for generations.
Neonicotinoids are a family of pesticides that have been proven through 800 peer-reviewed studies at this point that link them to be it's a nervous system type of chemical disruptor, so it also affects animal life, including human life, and those studies have shown that as well. I don't know if you're familiar with David Suzuki from the old TV show Nature, but he just released this whole series of studies, and it's worth checking out. I hope that you consider doing what the breadbasket of the seed industry, Eugene, Oregon, which is really important for agriculture, for the country and the world really, has done to protect their food supply and their seed sources.
Yes, I would introduce that resolution.
What is your stand on geothermal? Part one. And two, what is your stand on Pohakaloa DU?
Geothermal is not cheap, it's not clean, and it's not renewable. We have had geothermal on this island for 30 years, and yet we still pay the highest rates in the nation. Not only the highest, we pay more than double what number 2 pays, which is New York. So it's not cheap. That's a myth. That plant actually ran in the red for 20 years. They are just now making a profit. So I also think that putting all of our energy resources on the Kilauea East Rift Zone is insane, and we should not put any more energy down there at all. It's just a matter of time until a lava flow comes and either covers the plant or the transmission lines or something, and so that is not a good place to put all our eggs. Not cheap, not clean. People are sick. They don't know why. They've avoided health studies for 30 years. They've avoided them really hard for the last 2 years. And the neighbors around there want answers. We do have a relocation program, and the county will buy your house and you can move out, and then they'll sell it to somebody else. So I think that's a bad idea. And then when you get right down to it, geothermal energy production is offensive to paleo practitioners. So even if you can make it cheap and clean and renewable, you're not going to get over that. So I oppose geothermal energy and any expansion of it anywhere on this island. As far as Pohakaloa goes, I am against. I also don't like guns. Live fire is scary, and if you've ever driven up over the saddle in the middle of the night, right when they set a cannon off right behind you, it's shocking. And we have had there was a resolution on this council a couple years ago to go up there and figure out what was going on with the depleted uranium, and there has been zero action on that. So we would like the Department of Health to come here and to answer to us and tell us why people have DU in their urine. No expansion on Pohakaloa, no C-17 jets landing up there, no more desecration of our sacred mountaintops. On a 1 to 10 scale, I rank us a 3. I think that there are some sustainability efforts going on, but they're pretty minimal, and they're definitely not anywhere what they used to be pre-contact. And I think the reason is gentrification. That's what I think. It's a big problem. When I moved here 2 months before 9/11, and when I moved here, the world was a different place. It was open and free and happy, and we had internet and all these things. And all of a sudden on 9/11, that all changed, and the planes stopped flying. And this was my first emergency disaster type situation in Hawaii, and I was shocked and amazed to find out that paper products are the first thing to go here. In Iowa, it's batteries and water, but paper products are really big here. So we need to reverse the course and start studying the old ways and change our thought process in order to change our reality. That's what I think.
There was a thing that started in the early 90s, the integrated resource planning. It was a federally mandated project, and the information about how we used energy became more available. In this county, since that first integrated resource planning process, the population has almost tripled. But the energy use has only gone up by 1/3, primarily due to the introduction of solar and solar getting cheaper. The county, however, is still the 3rd largest consumer to the utility. It has made some very little inroad beyond the Kim administration, and none before that in terms of solarizing the county's facilities. What do you want to do about it?
Yes, we should continue with solarizing county facilities for sure. I think another thing that the county could concentrate on more is we have an enormous fleet of vehicles in the county, and a lot of those vehicles could be changed out to electric or at least hybrid vehicles. Those vehicles then could store power overnight. If nobody's using them, they could charge during the day and be a buffer to the system and the grid overnight. But the largest, by far, department in the county that uses electricity is the water department. They are, as far as I know, the #1 customer at Hilo. So we desperately need to upgrade our infrastructure and keep pipes from leaking and pumps from failing and those kinds of things too. So that's, again, you're talking multi-million-dollar projects, bond projects, but we're long overdue and we have to take care of that stuff now in order to grow responsibly, in order for businesses to be able to add services and those kind of things. They have to have that basic infrastructure needs. I think we have to be connected to nature. We come from nature, we are nature, and we have to really grasp aloha aina and use that as our driving force when we're passing laws and take that into account for real. That sometimes you can't cost things out, that you just have to feel it and do it because it's right. And that's where I said that.
This is titled Community Outreach and Transparency. And the question is, how will you work with our district, meaning this district, to communicate current issues and allow the community time to discuss these issues prior to bringing these resolutions forward?
I am a big proponent of open government and transparency and community discussion. So one thing that I have missed in the 8 years I've lived, in the 14 years I've lived in this district, and all of them, I guess, is that we have had no community meetings with any council member. So I do attend a lot of community group meetings, and I would definitely continue to do that. But I think that it would be good to provide a place to hold space in the county setting for people to come to us with their issue. So it's not so divided out and it's so one issue when you go to this group or that group or that group, that people could come to me. I have been door knocking for the last, oh my goodness, how many days, I don't even know. And I've learned a lot about my community that I've lived in for a long, long time and thought I knew really well. So that's been a very eye-opening experience for me. And now that I've done that, I can't imagine not doing that. I think you absolutely have to have community input in order to make valid and supported decisions. You have to have buy-in from your folks, or it's all for naught.
Maybe we can just get a yes or no answer. Do you support the county's current ban on GMOs?
Yes, I would support the ban on GMOs as written. It has the support of the people because the people want to know where their food comes from. This is a basic trust issue, and for a lot of years, people trusted that they were buying apples in the grocery store and that they were actually apples. It has come to light that that may not be the case, and that you have to check every single thing you buy now. I don't like that. I'm a mother of 4. I'm a busy girl. I want to go to Sack and Save and pick up some food. I don't want to have to know the latest glyphosate study or figure out if, neonicotinoids were used in the... I don't know. I just want an apple. I just want an apple. I think that farmers do have choices and that they can choose to grow something healthy and sustainable and good for the environment. I also think that the government can tell you not to grow things. We have already set a precedent with that. Try and grow some pot in your front yard. And the government will come and tell you that you have too many or you don't have the right permit for that. So we've already set the precedent that we can set up statutes and limitations on what is planted in our INA. And this is, this is sneaking up on me, the safety issue. See, I'm scared, Bob. I just want an apple.
It's my job. I'm going to follow up on that with the second part of the question, and I think it's looking for your creativity. Say, what do you see as the next steps to protect residents on Hawaii Island from GMOs, its associated pesticides, chemicals, and usage.
Next steps to protect us from GMO and pesticides, I would make sure that the ban is upheld. It's kind of out of our hands right now. It's in the court system, but that's not the county's fault, and that's not the people's fault. That is the fault of the people that filed suit against our county to overturn what was a very popular and overwhelmingly attended 7 months of lobbying on this issue, following probably a decade of backbuilding. So this is a very serious issue that the people have spoken loudly and repeatedly on. So if the ban fails in the courts, I would probably try it again. And definitely we need to pay some more attention to our pesticide use. That is also something, as I've been walking around door knocking, it's not even on my tick sheet of things to bring up, but you would be shocked and amazed at how many people are concerned with the pesticide use, especially by the county of all places. So uphold the ban, do a new bill on the pesticide use, and if the ban fails, we will do a ballot initiative. It's a done deal.
So we talked earlier on about the residential curbside pickup and the fact that we do have it. It's not operated by the county. There are commercial haulers who will come and pick up your discards, and a number of them are willing to collect recyclables if you set them aside. So that's a county policy that says they're not allowed to take it to the transfer stations. Would you support the change in that policy as a county council person that would direct the Department of Environmental Management to allow commercial haulers to pick up recyclables on behalf of a resident and take it to the mixed recycling bin for that resident?
I would support it too. It's sort of ludicrous that that would be against the law. It seems silly to me, so that might be the first thing we do, Christine. Come see me when I get elected. I would. Hello. I have in the past enjoyed, not in Hawaii, but on the mainland, curbside pickup. In fact, our county municipal waste, we paid for our waste through our water bill. That's how they did it where I lived in Iowa. You paid according to your water bill, you paid a rate. So the theory was that if you use more water, you were a big family who produced more garbage. So that's how that was done. And then we had mandatory curbside pickup. They gave us bins, they taught us how to recycle and how to separate it out, and it had to be clean. To this day, I wash all of my recycling with warm soapy water because that's how we were taught to do it. And so I think that in order to really get to a zero waste place, there has to be a lot of education and there has to be support. And people that pay for private pickup are not going to separate their stuff out so they can drive that down themselves if they pay for the garbage pickup. So it's a no-brainer. And that was
as we're sitting here listening to a lot of these things, it still goes back to kind of the first statement when I made law defines a culture. We had questions about native gathering rights. We also had issues on GMO. We also had questions of military uses. So we're looking at gated off areas. I think it all almost revolves around the same issue, because the hunter cannot go in an area that is military gated, right? Which they do have a majority or a big section of those areas. You guys also manage our supposedly ceded lands, and then we have other sections of private properties. In these portions of when it comes to environmental GMOs or anything, it seems that a lot of the different corporations has a good tie with our politicians here in Hawaii, and we're kind of seeing the role play or the sadness of our environment be destroyed within that. So as you guys are responsible to maintain these laws and to protect our resources and the people of Hawaii, And this is where we've kind of felt weird in this process, because if we're up to date and we cannot deny the newer information, just like GMOs and everything, I mean, it's been scholarly brought out, undisputable, just like, as much as the existence of, there's no annexation of Hawaii. We cannot deny those facts, and we're going to go straight law. And that's the portions we wanted to make sure these exist, and we've lost that as a culture, as a people. Because if we all realize Hawaiian wasn't based off of a blood quantum, yeah, it was based off of loyalty to a place. And just like you guys are taking the roles to be loyal to a place, like I said once before, those laws, you guys need to uphold those things. So it kind of starts as my first question is just a yes and no, because it's the process of we are all held accountable. And as we're in this movement, that there is, the Hawaiian Kingdom was never annexed by the United States of America. And the existence of no treaty. And that to obtain Hawaii was done through a joint resolution. You're standing here and being voted in by the people. Even though our governance and we're having that political issues, there's still a maintenance of law that we wanted and we're asking for. So on that portion, it would be a yes and no. Do you know of this information? Because like I said, it defines our law and our environment, for one. So it was, did you know that there is no annexation of Hawaii? And two, because recently, this is leading to the environmental question. We just recently, the people of Hawaii celebrated July 4th. Now that, to our knowledge and to information, is our occupiers' holiday. If we go to Bayfront today, today's the 8th, we're several days past, we can find the remnants across the beaches, across our fronts between, I would say, Keaukaha, all the way to Bayfront, of a holiday that's celebrated by a people confused, and where we have councilmen provide this service for us, yeah, and then yet there's no cleanup after. There's no accountability for those to come across, right? So the lack of education, the lack of everything. So I'm wanting to know within the source of your proposal, right, no waste, to take upon that as you run for council. Are you going to truly perpetuate these things that are truly destroying? Because I know we all could go out there tomorrow and fill up each of us trash bags full of fireworks. That I'm not saying in our culture or process, everybody enjoys it. You're taking away something that we celebrate in all holidays, right? We have New Year's, we have Lakukua, we have Chinese New Year's. So there is a celebration of fireworks. I'm not asking for the ban of that, but just that awareness and that perpetuation of that. Sorry.
So is yes and no of the awareness of what is current standing?
Well, we do that first. Okay, so this would be, yes, are you aware of the current political standing?
I'm acutely aware that we are under illegal occupation.
And do you feel, because for the July, I mean the cleanup, I mean like the support.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah. I think you drew that together really well, and I would totally do that. I think if we're going to give any, that was contingency funds. Jay Yoshimoto gave contingency funds for the fireworks show that didn't happen. That's going to happen again at the end of the summer, if y'all haven't read the paper today. But they had a problem with that. Zero cleanup. It's ludicrous to me. You definitely should be, yes, or you're not allowed to do that again next year. I mean, you have to kind of prove yourself, you know, and this is a long, I mean, it's the same company that does it every time, right? They know what it's going to do. Have a plan. Totally agree.
In that closing statement, I would kind of like to hear why I should vote for you as an environmentalist. I mean, honestly, actually, I am in your district, so you might get my vote. Because I think that might be what people would like to hear. You know, we as environmentalists, why should we vote for you?
Aloha. Thank you, everybody, for coming and for putting this together, Sierra Club and Recycle Hawaii and Lake, guys. You should vote for me because I do have a proven track record of being a solid environmentalist. I have put my fingers in the dirt. I have helped clean up Lily Galani Gardens. I painted the lines in the tea house parking lot, for example. I have marched, I have lobbied, I have written emails, I have testified at every level of government, and now I want to make this for real and do some of those things that we talked about tonight, and I really hope for your support on August 9th. Aloha.
Introduce yourself to the audience.
Hi, my name is Sharon Schloss, and I am an activist and writer on geoengineering, and I write a blog called The Kembo, and I've contributed articles to IntelliHub.
The Kembo, it's like the rainbow, and it's one of it's
yeah,
one of those.
It's a chemical rainbow.
It's one of these fundamental sites for just starting from the basics, getting people up to speed.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I explain it from Chemtrails 101 to what are these weird clouds you're seeing, what are the reasons this is happening, what can we do to stop it, what can we do to protect our health. It's all over. I mean, it's a huge issue, so that's why I have a blog dedicated to one.
Every time I hear about chemtrails, I'm still just like, why the hell are people in such denial about this subject? How is it possible that you don't look up and go, no, those aren't contrails. They're not supposed to stay. And I feel like I have to, I'm talking to, even to my audience, like I'm talking to kindergartners, like, no. Contrails go away when the plane goes away because it's just vapor.
Right.
Chemtrails stick around all day and then dissipate and then rain chemicals down and then affect the weather in strange ways. Give children cancer. Yeah. So I thought, and by the way, you're on my list of people to call because we're working on a special project that we can't tell anybody about yet. But I figured that the way to wake people up to the chemtrail issue, and I have to know if you're down for this, we could go skydiving when there's some chemtrails in the air and collect samples. You up for that?
You know that I've heard about a skydiver that skydove through a chemtrail and was horribly sick for the rest of the day. I don't know if it's a safe thing to do.
Ooh.
I mean, these things contain.
You have to wear a gas mask, like an oxygen mask or something?
Yeah, an oxygen mask would be a good idea. Full, covering, of course. These things contain aluminum, barium, and strontium, as well as pathogens and all kinds of other nasty things.
Polymer fibers they're finding. It's yeah.
So do you think like we should all just be walking around like they do in Beijing when the smog's really bad?
I've done that.
Like chemtrail, we're going to start having like chemtrail alert days. They're going to get that bad, and you're just going to see like everybody in LA walking around. I'm surprised they don't do that with like regular smog days in LA. But you could.
Well, they used to, but it's not as bad as it used to be.
Really?
The smog has improved, but there is a chemtrail forecast.
Maybe it's the chemtrails that's making the smog better. You don't know. I mean, it could be. Could be.
Chemtrail denier.
No, that's not a denial. I'm just looking on the bright side. There's a silver lining to every chemtrail.
Well, anyway, there is essentially a smog forecast for chemtrails. It's called Chemtrail Forecast Network. You can Google Chemtrail Forecast Network, and it tells you what's coming, and it is amazingly accurate. This guy's amazing. He's a meteorologist that reports on the chemtrails as what they are, as opposed to the others that say partly cloudy.
You sure he's not just working for the Air Force and he's like getting their flight logs?
Yeah, some people say he's an insider. I don't know where he gets his info. His name is Kevin Martin.
Yeah, he's a couple lamb chops shy of a mixed grill if you catch my drift. He does a lot of weird things, but like she said...
He thinks he's Johnny Depp.
Yeah. That's...
Maybe he really is Johnny Depp.
He looks a little...
Are you a Johnny Depp denier?
Yes.
We'd have to talk to Kevin Martin about that one. He's a Johnny Depp impersonator.
And you write for IntelliHub?
Oh yes, I didn't introduce myself. I'm Gabriel. I'm her assistant, and I help with all of the groundwork.
No,
wait, I missed the hand motions there. What?
He's a great activist.
I can't see what you guys can see from behind this monitor. Like I don't know what's going on from like mid-chest down. He's a good assistant. So there are good things happening where I can't see them.
I'm actually the sign language interpreter. I'm doing
I can't tell who's doing what to whom under the desk here.
Don't forget to like, share, and please subscribe to this channel.
You.
As a free, beautiful, independent human being with inalienable rights, own yourself.
You can't expose yourself. I saw you.
What would happen if you built a refuge for a persecuted people in a place where another people already lived? In the next few minutes, you'll learn why this moral quandary is at the root of the struggle between Israelis and Palestinians, and what you can do to help achieve a just peace for everyone in the region. First, there are a couple of things it's helpful to understand. One, many Jews fled harsh persecution in anti-Semitic Europe, especially the Nazi Holocaust. Zionists encouraged massive immigration to historic Palestine, at that time a British colony, where Jews had an age-old connection and where small Jewish communities had long existed among larger groups of indigenous peoples. But when the UN offered the Jewish immigrants the majority of the land for a new state called Israel, for the indigenous Palestinians who lived there, it was a massive destruction of life. They rejected the UN's partition plan, and several Arab states invaded the new state of Israel. Israeli forces essentially erased over 400 Palestinian villages and towns. By the end of the fighting, Israel controlled 78% of historic Palestine. And when 750,000 Palestinians who fled or were expelled during fighting tried to return to their homes where the new state now stood, they were permanently barred by the Israeli government. While over 100,000 of their relatives and neighbors who hadn't left became second-class citizens of the new state, along with the new Jewish majority. Today, Palestinian refugees and their descendants number in the millions. Most are in the Gaza Strip, the West Bank, and Jordan. Many are spread throughout the world, with millions still living in refugee camps, seeking to return to their homeland. To sum up, one group of refugees found a much-needed home, but in the process, a new group of refugees was created. Here's the second thing to understand. Israel was founded as a Jewish state. But now ask yourself, what exactly does that mean? People had lots of ideas about what a Jewish state should look like. Some called for equality for all citizens. But what was created, in practice, was institutional discrimination against non-Jews. In other words, Israel ended up being built on a blueprint of exclusion. The Israeli government wants maximum land and resources for Jews, but not the Palestinians living there. That's why, inside Israel, Jews get special privileges, including rights to land and housing, that are denied to the Palestinian citizens, who make up 20% of Israel's population. That's also part of why Israel has never defined its borders. In fact, they still hold on to land, the West Bank and Gaza, that they conquered in the war in 1967. Since then, Israel has built Jewish settlements throughout the occupied West Bank, building Jewish-only cities and supplying them with infrastructure like roads and army camps, schools, and even a college. Military occupations are meant to be temporary, but after 40-plus years, this one looks permanent and entirely unjust. In the West Bank, Israeli Jewish settlers and Palestinians live on the same land, but must live under two completely separate and unequal systems of Israeli law. The Jewish settlers dominate the natural resources, including water and agricultural land, and they're backed by the Israeli army. To maintain the occupation, Israel has demolished thousands of Palestinian homes and orchards, confiscated Palestinian land, bombed a captive civilian population in Gaza, and punished resistance with raids, arrests, and assassinations, all to gain maximum land, while making life so difficult for Palestinians that they will either leave or be too afraid to resist. Palestinians have fought back. For decades, they tried to achieve national liberation through armed struggle. Some groups still do. But the majority now support popular protest instead. The deeply harmful pattern of control, repression, and violence profoundly harms Palestinians living under occupation and Israelis living as occupiers. This must be broken to reach a peaceful and secure future for both peoples. Now that you understand the problem, what about the solution? What about peace talks? So far, Over 2 decades of U.S.-backed peace talks have actually made things worse by helping Israel continue the occupation. It's been years of talking while Israel massively expanded the Jewish settlements and literally redrew the map. Peace talks are good if they're real, but not when they're theater to cover a land grab. So now what? The current world superpower, the United States, has been a terrible friend, enabling Israel's destructive and self-destructive expansion onto Palestinian land by funding the Israeli military, the biggest recipient of U.S. foreign aid in the world. But there's another superpower that can make the difference: you. There's a movement with hundreds of thousands of people just like you across the world, including Palestinians and Israelis, protesting, educating, divesting, and boycotting, all to bring nonviolent international pressure on Israel to stop violating human rights of Palestinians. Throughout history, where governments have failed to push for justice, people just like you, like us, have taken the lead and won. Now it's the Palestinians' turn for freedom and justice. We can pressure Israel to end the occupation and the discrimination. We want all people, Jews and Palestinians, to have equality, human rights, and democracy. We can change history. Join us.
Hawaii Political Reporter is not owned, influenced, or an agent of corporate, government, or special interest. We are a local, honest, independent source of political news and commentary. Our primary goals are to promote awareness of the non-aggression principle and to reduce violence, war, and death. To promote economic liberty, prosperity, and true civil rights as in the U.S. Constitution. To promote transparency and to bring awareness of corruption in government and the collusion at all levels with big-moneyed individuals and special interests to deprive the people of true choice of government, government that is truly by and for the people, for prosperity and freedom.
Would you date a robot?
Would I date a robot?
Yeah. Would you date
man.
a synthetic life form?
See, now I'm afraid to answer in case there are any ladies listening in the audience who might take this answer the wrong way. But, well, you know what? I can say that, I think I can say that I wouldn't, because while my temptation is to be like, well, duh, if all of my needs are met, obviously a robot's going to be, at some level more capable of doing all of those things than a female would. But for me, and I think I would hope for everyone who wants a fulfilling, richer relationship, part of it is relating to someone who is not you, who is not controlled by you, who is an independent consciousness. And then I go, well, could you make that in a robot? And I think I think you could, but you couldn't escape the fact that even the creation of that independent consciousness was created or programmed by a human being. But then I go, oh crap, god damn it, now I'm thinking of my own counter argument as I say that. And it's, well, is it not the same thing when we create a life through, biological sexual reproduction? So I don't know, man. Wow. Now you're making me think. You're like putting me on the spot. We got callers calling in, putting me on the spot like I was putting Berwick on the spot, pointing out how I was putting Jesse Ventura on the spot. It's this crazy Adam versus the Man logic chain. How is this happening?
Yeah.
What's your answer? Would you date a robot?
Yeah, I don't see a difference. I mean, see, here's the thing: we have to be careful how we define that. I would date a robot that had like an identical external human anatomy, at least.
Well, right. We're assuming when we say robot, we don't mean like a a computer box with arms sticking out of it and a little floating head. No, we mean like we're talking 20, 30 years down the road where we have the microtechnology where like individual cells are programmed and you have something that is, indistinguishable on the outside at least from a fellow human being, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Of course. I mean, we're not discussing technological fetishes here. We're discussing, whatever. All right, cryonics.
Well, you'll have to fuck that machine when we come to that bridge or whatever way we can mix up that metaphor. Yeah, it's a long ways off. It's a long ways off, Ashley, but we can dream, right?
Nobody else is showing the IDs.
Yeah, you got to show ID.
Sir, you're grabbing me?
And that's the problem. The decision-making matrix. Exercise your right to alter or abolish the government.
Agenda. We know you anti-American. You come forward American Constitution. 1913, corrupting the system. Devalue dollar, hyperinflation. The Federal Reserve, controlled by Lucifer. He can see you lying in your eye. Bye. You know can hide from Judge Jesus Christ. Hallelujah.